Hello and welcome to another edition of Pelham School District Today. I'm Chip McGee, Superintendent of Schools, and I have Board Member Troy Bressette here today. This episode is going to be all about the third warrant article for the March vote for the school district, having to do with solar power. Troy has been part of the task force that took a look at options to develop this warrant, and so we thought it might be kind of fun for us to talk about what it would mean for the district, what it doesn't mean, and answer some of the questions that have come up about what solar might look like. So appreciate you being here.
It is always good to be with you, Chip. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so I thought we could just start with the basics, which is, so I'm going to read the warrant article. It's pretty short. We only have 3 this year, and it's pretty short. And there's a couple parts in it I just wanted to ask you about. So it says, shall the school district vote to authorize the school board to enter into a long-term lease of school district property for the purpose of installing solar panels at no cost to the district, so I'm going to ask about that, but resulting in savings on the district's energy costs, all on such terms and conditions as the board determines are in the best interest of the district. So I'll start at the top. So why leasing? And what is it that we're leasing? So I'm going to get it wrong, and you can correct me. So are we going to lease someone else's solar panels?
Well, right, and I'm glad that you put it in those terms, because that's the most important distinguishing factor, is that we are not leasing solar panels from a company if this article were to pass. We are leasing our building space to an outside investor for purposes of installing solar panels.
Right, and not space inside.
Not inside.
The
we
roof.
are all about the roof space.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so why wouldn't it be more cost effective for us to just buy those things instead of leasing it to some solar panel company?
I like how the task force approached that, consisting of community members and budget committee from the town and our consultant Beth Greenblatt, as well as members of your administrative team, really analyzing what makes the most sense in terms of leasing our space and entering into a power purchase agreement versus buying the panels outright. And what we found with that is, gosh, the project would have cost somewhere in the vicinity of $2 to $2.5 million. And that is not an ask I felt comfortable making of taxpayers.
I agree.
It's a big upfront investment.
And not to get too into the weeds, but there's a tax thing as well that seems to matter. Could you just, as best you can, kind of explain why this is better because of the way taxes are managed?
Absolutely. So right now, we're operating in an environment where Congress had extended a federal tax credit available for solar installations and other renewable energy projects.
Yep.
That is not something that we as a school district can capitalize on.
Right, because
It's not available to us as a tax exempt entity.
right.
But what the power purchase agreement would do, Chip, is bring in an outside investor who can take advantage of those federal tax credits.
So
They're
they get the tax
26% right
credits.
now. It'll be 22% next year and into 2023.
So if they get the tax credits, what does the district get?
We get a fixed rate on an energy supply provided by those solar panels.
And a fixed rate below what we would be paying
Absolutely.
to the producers. Okay, so I'm going to keep going here because for the purpose of installing solar panels, it says at no cost to the district. And we talked about this, and I'm just going to play the role. Come on,
Right.
How can that be at no cost? That can't be true. So how is that even possible?
It's no cost to us because companies out there would bring together third-party investors with municipalities and create that PPA, the power purchase agreement. So it's a win-win. We are able to fix our energy costs produced by the solar. Third party is responsible for maintenance and everything in terms of liability surrounding these panels.
Right.
But they're taking advantage of the federal tax credit.
Right.
So it's a win-win, it's a marriage in that agreement situation.
Yeah, yeah. And so really we have two things of value as I listened to you say it, it kind of became clear to me. We have two things of value that a solar generation company would want. We have roof space. I guess three things. We use a lot of electricity, so we'll be a good customer of panels on the roof.
I think it would be fair to say that the district is the town's biggest consumer of electricity.
Yeah, we use a fair amount, and with the expanded building at Memorial, we're going to use more. And then the third thing is we have this tax credit that we can't use, but if they lease from us, they can use.
Right.
All right, so it says, resulting in a savings on the district's energy costs. And so I think I understand how much, why it would be less expensive. We're essentially buying from the sun instead of buying from the energy company. But how are we going to figure out how much this thing saves? Like, how do we even begin to figure it out? What are the factors that go into that?
Yeah, I think conservatively, we're looking at a savings of somewhere in the vicinity of $300,000 over the life of a potential agreement. So we're looking at the market rate. What is going on in the energy supply market right now? We're seeing Eversource and Liberty Utilities jacking up rates pretty significantly right now, and there are variables there. And what the power purchase agreement would do would lock us in with a small annual escalator.
So we have kind of a fixed rate. It would be a long-term agreement, 25 years. So by fixed, I mean with a small increase, as opposed to buying on the market. And we certainly do everything we can to have long-term agreements, but we know we'll be below that. What we don't know is how far below we'll be that, because who knows what energy prices will be in 2035.
Sure.
But we would know what a chunk of ours are.
I do really appreciate the predictability of that and getting locked in.
Okay, and so I've seen this presented, and I know it's been, this is an endeavor that's happened in a lot of districts around New Hampshire and just slightly differently in Massachusetts, but what are some of the conditions that you would be looking for to enter into this agreement? Because if this passes, we would negotiate, we'd actually put out to all companies and say who wants some of our roof to get a best price. But what are some of the terms that you would be looking for? Because it says in the best interest of the district.
Yeah, right up front, I'd want that request for proposal put out there and see what we can get from companies who are expert in the solar space. And second of all, I think number one priority is the economic benefit that comes along with producing solar energy and relying on that as a supply. Second, I mean, there's clear environmental benefits. I don't know the exact amounts of carbon offset, but with all the roof space that we've got here in the district, it's in the hundreds of tons of carbon saved on an annual basis, which is pretty astronomical.
And so I'm going to talk about a third one,
Yeah.
which is near and dear to me. I'm going to say economics first on my list too. And environmental is really nice to have as part of the discussion. And we happen to be a school district, and there would be some great educational opportunity. I know that this would include with it, it's fairly inexpensive for them to include meters that are visible to students in the building, so that you can see what productivity is happening on the roof, and track productivity from different panels and directions, time of day. There's a ton of good work there, and students would have access to understanding, particularly. I can picture students in science classes across all three schools being able to access those panels and kind of making sense of what's going on.
Absolutely,
on the roof.
for them to see the value of a project like this is really important, and something that technology has come a long way, and not only can we monitor that in-house or in our school buildings, but it's something that we can make available for the community to kind of track our progress as well.
Exactly.
So it's something that everybody can get excited about.
Yeah, yeah, and I just want to clarify, this whole plan is talking about roofs, all three schools' roofs. That all, if the warrant article passes, all three would be available to be leased if the board was able to get a cost-effective proposal forward. Let's do the negative first, and then we'll talk about what it might actually look like. So, what if you don't get one that's cost-effective? Would the board be bound to make this agreement?
Absolutely not. No, what this would do, if passed, is allow us to negotiate in this space. And the way that I view it personally is another tool in our toolbox to save taxpayers money on energy costs.
Yeah.
Right now we're under a competitive supply agreement with Liberty Utilities or some other provider.
Right.
And I look at solar as another type of that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And from my point of view, as the kind of lead administrator in the district, every time I can move a dollar out of operations and into classroom teaching and learning without affecting operations is good. And I'd love to move $300,000 or more.
Right.
Because that is a pretty conservative one. I'm thinking that I'm going to hold this up, but maybe it can go on the screen when we do the real thing. So I have each of the schools here, and this is a conceptual layout. Could you just kind of walk me through what we have here? So this is the high school, and talk to me first about the chart.
Right. So if we look at the entire pie as what the building consumes in terms of energy, the roof space allotted here, and this is all flat roof array, essentially with that space available under current technologies in the photovoltaic space, we could generate about 50% of what that building consumes just through solar.
And so the orange is how much would we predict we'd be able to produce, and the whole circle is total required. And so one of the things that struck me as we've talked about this is when I first saw this drawing, I thought, oh my God, we're going to have guys up on the roof knocking the snow off all the time. And truth of the matter is, those are not ours to maintain in this arrangement. They're not ours to fix, and they're not ours even if there's if they cause a roof penetration. That's the solar company's concern, not ours.
All maintenance and risks associated with that are borne by the third party now. If they were inclined to want to do snow removal, I think we'd provide access. But the fact of the matter is, these things are all taken into consideration with the modeling that they do with expected solar production.
Yep.
I don't want to get too deep into that, too deep into the snow, I guess, on this one. But it's all part of the agreement, and if they want to come and clear the snow because it's piled on there for too long, then they can, but chances are that's not even going to need to happen.
Yeah, yeah. All right, so I'm going to skip Memorial for a second because that's the most complicated. So here we have elementary, and just walk me through what we're looking at here.
Yeah, so here we have the front of the building. We're cut off a little bit, but Marsh Road is running north to south here. So we're looking at kind of southwestern exposures on our slanted roofs.
Yep.
And then all of the flat roof space here as well. What this picture cuts off, though, are a few other peaks that present opportunity for photo installs, but that's something that companies who are putting together bids would have to tell us whether it makes good financial sense under a power purchase agreement to even go there.
Right.
But this is the core, and again, like the high school, we'd be producing about 50% of this particular building's consumption with solar and relying on the utility for the other half.
Okay, and so that gets to the point that we've gotten this conceptual layout, but we haven't designed this. That would be all that cost would be on a company that chooses to lease our roofs.
Exactly.
Okay. So now this one's a little more complicated. This is Memorial School, and this is a satellite image before. You can actually see the old portables are in the wrong place there. No construction is happening yet. So could you just kind of give this one an explanation?
So this is early on. This is kind of as it is now, or even earlier. We're looking at about 30% capacity here, based on the roof space available as the building exists right now,
Right.
with 70% reliance on the utility.
So that's
But-
and that's 30% of what we think the requirements are going to be.
Yes.
So we took the low number of produced from the sun, because there's going to be more roof, and the bigger number for total demand, because we know the building's going to demand more.
Right, and what this pie chart does not account for is the increase in the roof space by adding the gym and the other spaces.
Yeah, think of that. The gym and the art room and the music room, that's an absolute ton of flat roof.
It sure is.
And in the clear blue skies, so that those would, without a doubt, be good places to add. Okay, and so I guess what I would want to end with is, so honestly, having been on the task force, from my point of view, this seems like a no-brainer. Zero cost, $300,000 to the good over time. What do you think people might be hesitant about, that we could just be candid with them if they're trying to decide, do I support this or not?
Right, naturally, people's minds are going to be skeptical
Yeah.
about something that right up front says no cost.
Yeah.
But there have been numerous projects like this throughout New England and the country that have a demonstrated track record and consistency in meeting expectations there. We are not spending a dime on a project like this. And if you recall, earlier on in the budgeting process, the warrant article wording was a little bit different.
Yeah.
And what was important to all of us as school board members was to get that promise to the taxpayer that there is no cost, and we're only going to consider this if it is in the best interest. And the measures that we use there are the environmental impact, the economic, and the educational, marrying those three factors
Right.
in there as we consider any potential proposals.
You know, one thing that in that meeting, when the board said, "Can we add that language?" One thing that struck me is warrant articles are a chance for the community to weigh in, and on this one, it has a promise of a financial implication. It has to be zero cost.
Right.
And that will be, that is a commitment from the board, because when you added that therefore becomes the commitment. And so I do think it's a good option, and I'm hopeful for it selfishly, because that means that without raising taxes, we can consider things for classrooms that we couldn't otherwise. It's just another good way to help the district run efficiently on the operations side, so we can focus on teaching.
That's a very good, tangible way of looking at how those savings could be put to good use for educational purposes.
Yeah. Or, if the board so decides, simply return to reduced taxes.
Even better.
Either one.
I'll take either one.
I'll take either one, because either would be good for the community. So I'm going to wrap up there. Chip McGee, this is Pelham School District Today, talking with Troy Bressette about the solar lease warrant article for the March 22 vote. Thank you very much.